With us again today, presenting Intellectual Predators, How Predators Prey on Christian Students. Welcome back to the stage, Dr. Frank Turek.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How many were here last night or were somewhere else at the time? All right, good, just checking. Well, that's all messed up. Stand by. There you go. One atom said to another atom, "Hey, I just lost an electron." And the second atom said to the first, "Are you sure?" And the first atom said, "I'm positive." That's my science joke, okay? This morning, we're going to talk about intellectual predators, how professors prey on Christian students and what you can do about it. And let me warn you right now that this presentation is rated PG-13 at least. We may even get into R. It's okay, the Bible's rated R. Have you noticed that? Okay, so young people, if you're here, you probably want to stay. Okay? All right, here's what we're going to do today. First thing we're going to talk about is who are these intellectual predators on campus? What do I mean? Secondly, we're going to talk about what are the impact of these people on our kids. And then finally, is there any solution to this? So let's start with intellectual predators. What do I mean by intellectual predators? First of all, the reality of the college campus tells us that there are 1 in 4 professors being an atheist or an agnostic. And in fact, atheists, or I should say college professors, are 5 times more likely to be atheists than the general public. More than half of college professors view evangelical students unfavorably. In fact, they're the most unfavorable group, according to college professors. 53% view evangelical students unfavorably. The next closest group are Mormons at 33%. The next closest group are Muslims at 22%. Now, don't get me wrong. I wish they'd view nobody unfavorably out of the gate. But if your evangelical student goes to college, more than half of the college professors probably will view your student unfavorably. Also, 6% of professors say the Bible's the Word of God. Just 6%. And 51% say it's basically just a bunch of fables. I guess the others are saying, well, it's somewhere in between. These people are represented well by probably the most famous atheist in the world today. His name is Richard Dawkins. Dawkins wrote the book, The God Delusion. In the beginning of the book, he said, when one person suffers from a delusion, it's called insanity. When many people suffer from a delusion, it's called religion. If this book works as intended, religious readers who open it will be atheists when they put it down. So he's kind of an evangelist for atheists. That's what he's out there trying to do. He's trying to convert people to atheism. Daniel Dennett, he's also one of what is called the new atheists out there. He teaches at Tufts University. Now, new atheists don't have new arguments. They just have a new attitude. You know, they're just kind of angry. And here's what Daniel Dennett has said. He said, they will see me as just another liberal professor trying to cajole them out of some of their convictions, and they are dead right about that. That's what I am, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do. In fact, Richard Rorty, who has since passed on, summed up this very well. He said, we try to arrange things so that students who enter as bigoted, homophobic, religious fundamentalists will leave with college with views more like our own. So we are going to go right on trying to discredit you in the eyes of your children, trying to strip your fundamentalist religious community of dignity, trying to make your views seem silly rather than discussable. In fact, that's what goes on in college. They don't really debate the existence of God. They don't debate the evidence for it in most cases. They just mock it. As C.S. Lewis put, it's not the topics that we debate that are the problem. It's the topics that are assumed settled that are never debated. And if you think about this, the most important question to humanity is, does God exist? Because if God exists, we live one way. If God doesn't exist, we live another. Everything flows from the question, does God exist? And yet our school system from grade school on up assumes the answer to the question, does God exist, is no. Now you wonder why our school system and many of the kids coming out of our school system, first of all, don't know anything other than how to emote, And they know nothing about God or what the meaning of life is, because we are not even addressing the most fundamental question. Steven Weinberg, a Nobel laureate in physics out of UT Austin, put it this way: I personally feel that the teaching of modern science is corrosive of religious belief, and I'm all for that. If scientists can destroy the influence of religion on young people, then I think it may be the most important contribution we can make. Wait a minute, wait. I thought that as a professor, you're supposed to help educate your students to become better citizens. No, according to Weinberg, it's to talk people or talk kids out of religion. The problem with Weinberg is he's got it exactly backwards. Science does not point away from God, it points directly to God. In fact, science is a method we use to discover causes, and when you look at the whole show, as we'll see a little bit later, the whole show meaning the whole universe, it had a cause beyond itself. This guy, Peter Singer, teaches at Princeton. He said, human babies are not born self-aware or capable or grasping that they exist over time. They are not persons. Therefore, the life of a newborn is of less value than the life of a pig, a dog, or a chimpanzee. And therefore, he goes on to say, I think parents ought to be able to kill their kids even up to 28 days after the kid's born. Well, look, if there's no God, why stop at 28 days? Why not 28 weeks? Why not 28 months? Why not 28 years? I know some parents in here are going, that wouldn't be a bad thing. I kind of agree with this guy. No, if there's no God, there are no human rights. Everything's just a matter of opinion. He's just living out atheism to its logical conclusion. Christopher Hitchens, who has passed on as well recently, a couple of years ago, I've had the opportunity to debate him a couple of times. Very articulate Englishman. In fact, with the British accent, he sounded even more articulate. You know, you sound even more brilliant when you have the English accent. You can see both of these debates on our website for free, crossexamined.org. So if you want to see a debate with me and Christopher Hitchens, you can see it. But here's what Hitchens said. He said, I think religion should be treated with ridicule, hatred, and contempt, and I claim that right. He went on to say, Charles Darwin was born in 1809 on the same day as Abraham Lincoln, and there is no doubt as to which of them has proved to be the greater emancipator. What do you think he meant by that? You see, Darwin, according to atheists, gives them freedom to do what they want morally, because if there is no God, you can do whatever you want. In fact, Ron Carlson, who was a Christian apologist a number of years ago, used to go around to colleges and sometimes talk about the problems with Darwinism, and he was invited by a professor to go into his class and teach his students the problems with Darwinism, even though the professor was a Darwinist. And after the lecture, they went to lunch, and Ron said to the professor, hey, what do you think of my lecture? And the professor said, well, Ron, I think what you say is true. I think there are a lot of problems with Darwinism, but I'm going to keep teaching Darwinism anyway. And Ron said, well, why would you do that? He said, because if we really did evolve from slimy green algae and there is no God, then I can sleep with whoever I want to sleep with. He was just being honest. And many atheists, some atheists will admit that morality is really the issue. The issue is not the evidence. The elephant in the room is morality and accountability. In fact, the elephant in the room on the so-called culture wars is not evidence. The elephant in the room is, I want to do what I want to do, and I don't want you telling me I can't. In fact, I want you to celebrate what I do. That's really what this is about. Bart Ehrman, who teaches at UNC Chapel Hill and wrote the book Misquoting Jesus, put it this way: there are few things more dangerous than inbred religious certainty. You see, he's an agnostic or a skeptic, and he tries to say that the Bible isn't true. And he has taken many young people away from the faith, even though he was once an evangelical, according to him. This is Marian Cook. She teaches at Duke University, and she's an Islamic feminist. Hello, McFly. Well, here's what Miriam Cook said. She said, Islamic feminists are declaring that, yes, Islam is the ideal just society. Islamic feminists, wait a minute, the ideal just society? Has she ever been to Saudi Arabia? The ideal just society. Islamic feminists confront any who threaten their Islamic or local community, whether they are organizations or individual men or Christian, Jewish, or secular women. Islam, the ideal just society. She wouldn't even be able to take a picture like that in Saudi Arabia. She'd have to be completely covered up. She wouldn't even be able to drive to work in Saudi Arabia. She'd be the property of her husband in Saudi Arabia. Islam, the ideal just society? It was like George Will said this once. He said, there isn't a deviant behavior out there that you can't get some bubble-headed professor somewhere to say it's a good thing. Right? It's true. This is James Tabor, who teaches at UNC Charlotte, not far from where I am. He is an archaeologist. He goes over to Israel quite a bit. And here's his theory. This is from ABC News, by the way. James Tabor is the chairman of the Religious Studies Department at University of North Carolina at Charlotte. His book challenges many of the beliefs that Christians hold dear, maintaining that Jesus is neither the Son of God nor the son of Joseph, but most likely the child of a Roman soldier named Pantera. What? Pantera? How does he know that? Where did this guy come from? Well, you know why? Because he assumes miracles can't occur. See, so the virgin birth is out. It's got to be some guy named Pantera or something that impregnated Mary. He just assumes it. You read his book and he just says, well, we know miracles don't occur, then Mary must have gotten pregnant just like everybody else. How does he know that? He's just making it up as he goes. It's just assumed miracles don't occur. Charles Potter put it this way: education is a most powerful ally of humanism, and every American public school is a school of humanism. What can the theistic Sunday schools meeting for an hour once a week and teaching only a fraction of the children do to stem the tide of a 5-day teaching program of humanistic teaching? Not much. By the way, who controls the schools? You do. Get busy. Here are some Bible courses you can take elsewhere. At Harvard, you can take feminist biblical interpretation and emancipatory biblical criticism. Emancipate yourself from those restrictive moral codes of the Bible. At Georgetown, you can take womanist theology and womanist spirituality. I didn't know that theology had gender, but apparently it does. At University of Pennsylvania, you can take feminist critique of Christianity. Last I checked, they did not have a course in feminist critique of Islam. At University of Michigan, you can be how to be gay, male homosexuality and initiation. Wait, I thought you were born that way. What's the deal with how to be gay? Where are they coming up with that? I don't know. They sit around watching Glee all day? I don't know. At UCLA, you can take Queering American History, Chicana lesbian literature, or speaking out, public speaking on lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender issues. No course that I know about on Christian issues at UCLA, but you can take it, the homosexual issues. At Wesleyan University, you can take Queering the American State, Politics and Sex After 1968. At UT Austin, the family. You can take indoctrination into the idea that homosexual parenting is just as good as a mom and a dad. And it's quite ironic that a researcher at UT Austin, a conservative, has just come out. I think his name is Mark Regeneris, and I might not have his last name right, it's something like that, just came out and pointed out that exactly the opposite is true. That all the studies show that parenting or children do best when they're raised by their biological mother and father. As if you needed a study to know that. You know, we need a study for that. Of course, it's that way. At University of California at Chico, Campus Christian Club was found guilty of discrimination because they required their students to be Christians. Imagine at the Christian club, you got to be a Christian. And many universities now are creating these discrimination policies whereby you can't exclude anybody from your club. That means anybody who disagrees with you, you can't exclude. So someone who's homosexual, he has to be somehow in your club, even if you're a Christian club. So this has been going on at many universities. I think Vanderbilt is another one that has had a policy like this. Also, it gets worse, if it isn't bad enough already. There was a sex worker show a few years back where transvestites, strippers, homosexuals, and prostitutes mock America and traditional values, and it's been shown and financed by Duke, Harvard, the College of William and Mary, University of Michigan, Wesleyan University, and University of California at Davis. In fact, a few years back, the president of the College of William and Mary was actually fired over this, partially due to this. and also due to the fact that he wanted to take the cross off the chapel because it might offend students. And the alumni got wind of this and decided that they didn't want this president anymore. And when fundraisers would call alumni and say, hey, we want you to give, and they would say, is President so-and-so still there? Yeah? Goodbye. I got a question for you guys here in Oklahoma. Do you like your football tickets more than your children? If you like your football tickets more than your children, keep giving to the university. If you love your children more than your football, stop giving to the university. Thank you, Pastor. That's Gary. He does not. That's Paul. He doesn't need a microphone. You notice? Paul, give us another amen. Amen. There you go. See? You don't need a microphone. And he played in the NFL, so. Also, at Vanderbilt, you can take pornography and prostitution in history. At UCLA, you can take pornography and evolution. At Bates College, you can take doing it, getting it, seeing it, reading it, and you know what it is. At SUNY Buffalo, you can take cyber porn in society. At Pasadena City College, you can take navigating pornography. And I don't even believe this last one, but it's true. At Cornell, you can take the sexual child, which advocates pedophilia. Yeah, this is an Ivy League school. Did you know any of this stuff? As Brian was just saying, it's almost nicer to be in the dark, isn't it? And this lady takes the cake here. This is Alice Kuznar, who until recently taught at Chapel Hill. In fact, that was her picture on the UNC Chapel Hill website for her professorship. And she's pictured there with two dogs because she is a believer in bestiality with dogs. She put it this way, this is a quote, "Those who have an ardor for dogs know that their passion is unavailable and inaccessible elsewhere. Being independent of gender and sexuality, this love is liberating." Now, who's paying for all this? Yeah, you are. If you notice, with very few exceptions, just about every one of the courses I've mentioned are all at public universities. They are, and Methodist at Wesleyan, yeah. These are all financed by tax dollars. I'm sure if I did a research, you could find some of this at OU. You can find it at OSU. Stop giving them money. Start making some noise. This is not education. This is indoctrination into depravity. That's what it is. Dinesh D'Souza put it this way in his book, What's So Great About Christianity. Children spend the majority of their waking hours in school. Parents invest a good portion of their life savings in college education and entrust their offspring to people who are supposed to educate them. Isn't it wonderful that educators have figured out a way to make parents the instruments of their own undoing? Isn't it brilliant that they've persuaded Christian moms and dads to finance the destruction of their own beliefs and values? Who said atheists aren't clever? Yeah, you're paying thousands of dollars to have your kids talked out of the true Christian values that you know to be true. Actually, I think that's from an article he wrote on townhall.com, now that I think about it. Now, what is the impact on our kids? Well, as I mentioned in the pastor's event yesterday, 75% of young people who are brought up in the church walk away from the church once they leave the home. Now, there's a number of reasons for this, but one of the reasons is intellectually they don't know why Christianity is true. And then when they run into atheists and liberals on college campuses, they don't know how to handle it and they walk away. Now, what I want to show you is a video clip that was filmed at Focus on the Family about 12 years ago. So this goes back a little ways. But my friend Rick Schatz, who was the director of a anti-pornography ministry in Cincinnati, went to James Dobson and said, we've got this big problem. This was right after the Lewinsky-Clinton thing. We've got a big problem in schools. Kids are hooking up with one another And it's happening everywhere. It's very rampant now. And Jim Dobson said, I'm sure that's true, but it's not happening in Christian schools, I'm sure. And Rick Schatz said, no, it is. And Jim said, well, look, we've got the Focus on the Family Institute here, where we take the top students from around the country and we train them for a semester here at Focus on the Family. There's 2,000 applicants. We only take about 60 kids. Rick, why don't you bring your cameras into Focus on the Family here, and you can interview these Christian kids and see what they say about what's going on in their schools. Okay? So this video you're about to see, it's only a 30-second little video. We'll talk about hooking up and some other things. These supposedly are Christian kids now. All right? This is the PG-13 R section of the presentation. So kids, pay attention. Here we go.
And I've seen it in times where it happens in less than a month and kids just start hooking up.
You'd meet a guy, you know, he was cute, you had a good time together. You'd go out, he'd buy you dinner, and he'd treat you so nice, you know, and that was the thing you would do. You would go home or wherever, and, you know, you would pay him back. You would go down on him, or, vice versa. And I just, it wasn't like this big, moral issue to me.
You know, if a guy asks you to give him a blowjob, then be like, yeah, sure, I want to be loved, you know? I want to feel like I'm appreciated. You know, maybe if I do this, then he will love me.
Like teenagers, we just want to be older. And so when you're a virgin, you're still a little kid. It's still like you're young. And we just want to keep getting to that stage where we're older than we are.
So Rick Schatz brought that video to James Dobson, and James Dobson looked at that video and had the same look on his face that you have on your face right now. These are the Christian kids? Yes. Whose fault is this? It's our fault. We've let this persist. We've been too quiet. We haven't been involved enough. If the church had been the church for the past 100 years, this wouldn't be going on. Not to this extent anyway. There's always going to be sin. There's always going to be problems, no question. But this wouldn't be the norm. Lincoln put it best: the philosophy of the schoolroom in one generation will be the philosophy of the government in the next. You wonder why our government is the way it is now? Go back a generation and look at what was taught to our leaders. Taught atheism, liberalism, Marxism, socialism. That's what we have now. It's our fault. We gave up the academy and ceded it to the secularists. You know, if you take the godly people out of any entity, the entity becomes godless. And so we wonder why education's godless. We wonder why media's godless. We wonder why government's godless. We wonder why so many institutions are godless, because the godly people have decided just to give that up and just keep their faith to themselves. We're the problem. Now, what's the solution? There is no one solution. I'm just going to tell you what we're trying to do, and of course what this conference is trying to do. There's no one silver bullet. Everybody's necessary to turn this around. Here's what we're trying to do. Basically, when students go to college, it's like going to ancient Babylon if you're an Israelite. And these are the books that have had a lot of influence over the past decade or so. And there are four major things that are taught at the university. First is postmodernism or relativism. Everything's relative. You've got your view, I've got my view. And there is no real absolute truth or absolute moral point of view. Secondly is atheism or materialism. There is no spiritual realm. Everything is simply a matter of materials. We're all just molecules in motion here. Thirdly, there's anti-supernaturalism. Miracles don't occur. Like James Tabor said, there's no way Mary could have been impregnated supernaturally, because that doesn't occur, so it must be Pantera. Okay? It's just assumed miracles don't occur. And then fourthly, there's biblical criticism. For example, misquoting Jesus, the book written by Bart Ehrman, the UNC Chapel Hill professor, tries to get people to think that the Bible can't be trusted, that it hasn't been copied well, and we don't know what the original said, and so therefore you ought not trust it. All this is false, by the way, but this is what is taught. Now, what is our solution? Well, I actually think you only need to answer 4 questions in the affirmative to say that Christianity is true. In other words, if you answer yes to these 4 questions, you can show beyond any reasonable doubt that Christianity is true. What are the 4 questions? Here are the 4 questions. Now, that is some pretty grooving music, isn't it? Yes, actually, that is from our TV show, which is on every Wednesday nights here in the Central Time Zone at 8 p.m. and midnight, and also on Saturdays at 9 p.m. on Channel 378, DirecTV. How many people here have DirecTV? Can I see your hands, please? DirecTV. Like 6 of us. Come on, why not the rest of us? Friends don't let friends watch cable. If you want to get on and have enough faith to be an atheist, you got to get DirecTV. Actually, that's not true. If you go to our website, in fact, if you go to our website tonight, crossexamined.org at 9 p.m., you can link to a site that actually broadcasts or streams the show right over the internet. So you can just watch it at that time. It's not archived. If you want to get a DVD of it, you can go to our website and get it. We're also on radio every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. I think it's 91.3 here in Oklahoma City. Is that right? Is that the AFA station? Okay, that's what it's on. But it's also podcasted. You can listen to it anytime. And it's also on our new app, which I'll tell you about in a minute. Now, why are these the 4 questions? Truth, God, miracles, and the New Testament. Why are these the 4 questions? Well, obviously, if there is no truth, then, or if it's just true for you but not for me, then the Bible can't be true, right? Of course, if there's no truth in any book written by an atheist, can't be true either. So, of course, there's truth. In fact, if anyone ever says to you, there is no truth, what question should you ask them? Is that true? Is it true that there is no truth? Because if it's true that there is no truth, the claim there is no truth can't be true, but it claims to be true. I know that can give you intellectual constipation if you think about it long enough. But that's because it's self-defeating. It's like saying I can't speak a word in English. If I were to say that, you'd go, didn't you just say that in English? It's like saying my parents had no kids that lived. It's like saying my brother is an only child. My son, his favorite new self-defeating statement is this. You have to listen to this one. Hitler wasn't such a bad guy. After all, he killed Hitler. Oh, and the big one today is you ought not judge. Have you heard this? If someone ever says you ought not judge, what should you say to them? Yeah, then why are you judging me for judging? You see, that's a judgment. See, Jesus didn't say don't judge. Jesus said, judge not lest you be judged. By the same standard you judge others, you'll be judged by that standard. So before you try and take the speck out of your brother's eye, take the log out of your own eye first, then you'll be better able to help your brother. Is Jesus telling us not to judge here? No, he's telling us to take the speck out of our brother's eye. That involves making a judgment. He's simply saying, get that problem out of your life first so you can better help your brother. It would be complete suicide to say don't make judgments. Everybody makes judgments. Atheists make judgments. Christians make judgments. Muslims make judgments. Everybody makes judgments. The only question is, are your judgments true? In fact, Jesus says in John 7:24, stop judging by mere appearances and make a right judgment. Tracy, you want to get my good side? Yeah, there you go. Okay, good. Got that out of the way. In fact, I've noticed something. Jesus did save a very stern rebuke for people who were judgmental. And who were they in his day? Pharisees. And who were the Pharisees? They were the religious and political leaders of Israel. And Jesus went after them. Are you telling me Jesus got involved in politics? Yes! And you know, he wasn't so nice doing it. In fact, how many times you heard this? Someone will say, oh, that person is such a saint, he's never said a bad word about anyone. Have you heard this? If that's the definition of a saint, Jesus was no saint. You just need to read Matthew chapter 23 if you think Jesus was always a nice guy. What does he say in Matthew chapter 23? Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You strain out a gnat and swallow a camel. Oh, you look great on the outside. You're whitewashed tombs, but on the inside, you're full of dead men's bones. You go a mile to make a convert, and then once you make him a convert, you make him twice as much a son of hell as you are. How will you avoid being condemned to hell? What? Sweet and gentle Jesus said this? Jesus was not Barney, okay? Can't we all get along, boys and girls? No! He was not Mr. Rogers. Can you say kindness, boys and girls? He was kind most of the time, but he certainly didn't go around saying, this sermon brought to you by the letter E. No, Jesus was tough, and we need to be tough too. We need to tell the truth. Now, we don't have to always be unkind doing it, don't get me wrong, but sometimes you just got to call it like it is. Hey, by the way, thank you, Pastor. I've noticed this recently. Have you ever noticed that when you compliment people, like if you say, wow, you are so good at that. Wow, you are just amazing. Wow, you are one of the nicest people I've ever met. That they never say, who do you think you are? Are you judging me? Do you think you're worse than me? Nobody ever says that. Why? Because it's not judging that's a problem. It's judgments they don't like. It's judgments that convict them. That's when they say you ought not judge, even though they're judging you. So don't let them get away with that, all right? So we present all this on college campuses to try and get people to wake up there is truth. Now, the second question is, does God exist? Is it true that God exists? We know there's truth, but is it true that God exists? Now, we go through several arguments for this. Let me just give you one argument that even atheists tend to agree with in the sense that they agree with the evidence. What's the evidence? That space, time, and matter had a beginning. That once there was no space, there was no matter, there was no time, and then the entire space-time continuum leapt into existence out of nothing. It's called the Big Bang. Now, some of you are in here going, Frank, you know, we're Christians in here. We don't believe in the Big Bang. You guys don't believe in the Big Bang? I believe in the Big Bang. I just know who banged it. In fact, the evidence for the Big Bang is quite good. As I say, even atheists agree that space, time, and matter had a beginning. Well, here's the implication. If space, matter, and time had a beginning, the cause must transcend space, matter, and time. In other words, the cause can't be made of space, matter, and time. The cause must be spaceless, timeless, and immaterial, and also obviously powerful to create the universe out of nothing. Now, when you think of a spaceless, timeless, immaterial, powerful cause, who do you think of? That's what we mean by God. That's just one argument for the existence of God. Then you can look at the fine-tuning of the universe, which adds intelligence to the attributes of God that we've just discovered. And then the moral argument, which adds the fact that this being is moral as well. So you get a spaceless, timeless, immaterial, powerful, moral, personal, intelligent creator and sustaining cause of the universe. You don't even need the Bible to know this. So we go through all these arguments to try and show people that this is the case. Then question number 3, are miracles possible? A lot of people believe miracles are not possible. Like James Tabor, they just don't happen. Well, what is the greatest miracle in the Bible? It's not the resurrection. The resurrection's easy compared to the greatest miracle. Yeah, the greatest miracle in the Bible's the first verse. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. If that verse is true, every other verse is believable. I mean, if it's true that God created the heavens and the earth out of nothing, can he do whatever he wants? It's not logically impossible inside the universe? Of course. Well, the evidence shows that space, matter, and time did have a beginning. That's what I just got done mentioning. If that verse is true, then every other verse is at least believable. If God can create the universe out of nothing, can he part the Red Sea? Of course. Can he keep Jonah alive in a fish for 3 days? Easy. Can he raise Jesus from the dead? Easy, if he can create the whole universe out of nothing. So we have good evidence that miracles have occurred. The only question is, have any subsequent miracles occurred? Now, some of you may be thinking, well, you just said something I don't agree with. You said God can do whatever he wants. It's not logically impossible. I thought God can do anything. No, there's even some things God can't do. He can't do logically impossible things. Like he can't create a square circle. No such thing. He can't create a one-ended stick. No such thing. He can't create a married bachelor. No such thing. He can't create an honest politician. No such thing. There are some things that are just too hard for God. In fact, you can do some things that God can't do. Like what? Well, you can lie. He can't lie. You can change. He can't change. He's a perfect being. What's he going to change to? You can go out of existence. He can't. In fact, if he could do those things, he wouldn't be God. So God does exist. Miracles are possible. The last question is, have any other miracles occurred in the first century that can tell us that the New Testament is true? In other words, miracles are used to authenticate a prophet of God. That's what miracles are used for in the Bible. They're not like card tricks. They're not entertainment. They're there to show that this person speaks for God. Have any miracles occurred in the first century that could tell us that Jesus really speaks for God? And there is very good evidence that that's the case. And we go through in the book, I don't have enough faith to be an atheist, we go through all this evidence. And I don't have time to go through it here, but let me just give you one piece of evidence that the New Testament writers are telling the truth. It's called embarrassing testimony. Embarrassing testimony. Historians know that if somebody is telling an embarrassing detail either about themselves or their hero in the text, it's probably true. Why? Because you're not going to make up embarrassing details about yourself, right? In fact, let me ask you guys the question this way. How many people in here have ever lied to make yourself look good? If you don't have your hand up right now, you're lying to make yourself look good, and it's not working because we know you're lying. All right, how many people in here have ever lied to make yourself look bad? You don't do that. Well, the New Testament documents and even the Old Testament documents are filled with embarrassing details that the writers never would have made up. In fact, let me just give you one piece of embarrassing detail. At the crucifixion, the disciples and the New Testament writers run away. And who are the brave ones? The women, that's right. The women are the brave ones. I don't hear an amen. All right. Paul's not amen in that. He's not amen in that. He's not going to do it. The women are the brave ones. Now, who wrote the New Testament down? Men. Now, what man is going to say that he was hiding for fear of the Jews? Why the women went down and discovered the empty tomb? Would any man in here make that up? Would you make that up? I mean, if I was making it up, I'd make up something like, let's see, we marched right down there and overpowered that elite Roman guard. Yeah, that sounds good. And then we saw Jesus, who congratulated us on our great faith. And then we went and comforted the trembling women. Would never say I was Mr. Sissy Pants while the women went down and discovered the empty tomb. Doesn't make any sense. And of course, in that culture, you would never say the women were the first witnesses. Why? Because in that culture, a woman's testimony was not considered on par with that of a man. So if you're making up the New Testament story, you'd only have the men be the first witnesses. But all four Gospels say the women were, which means what? Yeah, they probably were. That's the point. In fact, one lady came up to me after a presentation like this once, and she said, I know why Jesus appeared to the women first. I said, why? And she said, because he wanted to get the story out. I said, that is an excellent point. I hadn't thought about that. Because, ladies, when your man comes home from work, does he say much? There could have been a nuclear explosion down at the plant. He won't tell you. So there's very good evidence that they're telling the truth here. They're not inventing this. Now, some of you are going, what about the Old Testament? Believe the Old Testament's true? Well, we go through all that in the book, but the bottom line is this. If the New Testament's reliable, you get the Old Testament thrown in. Why? Who's in the New Testament that can authenticate the Old Testament? Jesus. If Jesus really is God, as the New Testament documents claim he is, then whatever God teaches is true. Jesus taught the entire Old Testament as the Word of God. So if the New Testament's just historically reliable, you get the Old Testament thrown in. Now, if you want to go further into this, the book's available on the book table. There is a DVD set, 12 parts, 30 to 45 minutes per part back there, and a workbook. You can go through it. And by the way, all the proceeds from the sale of the books and the DVDs will go to feed needy children. Mine. Okay, just so you know. For more, tomorrow we're going to be going through the New Testament in a little bit more detail. We're going to be up at Fairview Baptist, which is up in Edmond, right? And what time is the service? Well, there's Sunday school before. What time is that? 9:30. So 9:30, if you live up toward the north and want to come, well, that's where we'll be tomorrow talking about this. Don't forget the book and the DVDs. If you want to keep up on evidence, we'll send you one email a month on our book table back there. There's one of these bookmarks. You just give us your email address, tear this off, keep the bookmark, and we'll send you one email a month, and we won't give your email address to anyone else, okay? Also, we're on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook, as everyone is. In fact, we're so into social media, we've combined YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook into one social media platform. We call it UTwitface. Okay? So you may want to sign up for that. Also, don't forget radio and TV. And lastly, we have an app. And it has these 4 points on it, and it also has objections on it. And there's a quick answer section on it. You can download the app at the App Store, or you can go to our website, and it's got a quick answer section. So if you're having a lunch with somebody and they say something you think isn't right, then you can just pull out your phone, go to the quick answer section. That's not me. That's not me. I'm just going to spend another hour out here. There you go. You can go there and download it for free, okay? Did I mention that? It's free, and you can interact with people on the fly. You don't have to memorize all this stuff. You always have it on your phone, all right? All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much.